Welcome back. We are sitting down with Emmy-winning Fox News anchor and author Harris Faulkner. She's talking with us about how we should have conversations with our children about the news. 2017 is filled with all sorts of
What a year.
difficult conversations.
Any time in like recent history that hasn't been in the last 2 or 3 years. So first of all, I think it's about making the choice to do so, to talk to your kids about the news. And I think you got to get there.
Right.
Because we are not in an age where they can just go out as little petri dishes into the world and have everybody glom on their value system and tell them what's going on through their prism.
Sure.
So I'm a big fan of identifying, your kids by the time they're 4 or 5, identifying certain stories in the news where you can break it down. Politics are part of our life now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I have 3-year-old nieces who know who the president is.
This is true.
Yeah.
And have for 2 cycles,
And
last year and this year.
The truth is, you want to get ahead of it. Because just like you said, you want to be the one that's giving this information because there's so much misinformation out there.
So it really hit me with the Manchester, UK story in the last couple of weeks that this was a topic that I wanted to talk about because I do news 6 days a week for Fox.
Yeah.
And my 4th grader came to me and said, Mommy, Disney has been talking about the Ariana Grande concert and something happened. And I said, let's sit down and let's talk about what happens sometimes when bad people want to do bad things. And oh, by the way, she's 10.
Okay.
My 2nd grader then pulls up a seat, because this looks good if the older sister's involved and mom's sitting down and putting something down to talk to us. That's interesting, right? We're in the kitchen. And I said, let's start with what we want to do for those people who've lost something. Let's start by praying and thinking about those families that are a world away who have something in common with us, and that is important, that we recognize that hurt and pain can happen anywhere in the world. Let's start there. And then I said, how we live from across the river, we live in the Hudson Valley, and we can see all of Manhattan. Remember that hole that was there for a long time, Bella, when you were growing up, my 4th grader, right? And now they filled it in with one world, and it's huge. Remember what necessitated that? And she said, yeah, bad guys came and hit our buildings with planes. And even the 2nd grader knew that, because they talk about this among themselves. That's all you need to tell them. You don't need to go into much detail. I did not say that of the 22 people who died in Manchester at that Grande concert, half of them were under the age of 16. I don't need to tell them that.
But what if they hear that information out and about? Because kids do hear things at home, and they come home and they say things, and you think, okay, now what?
Well, the talk about expiration and death should come separate from crisis. So when Grandma died, my mom passed away, it's been 4 or 5 months now. We sat down, we talked about that. We were there for Thanksgiving. So we had that conversation separate from world crisis. You have to start to talk about the important things to your kids so that they get your value system overlaid like tapestry on what's happening in the world. So a nugget to tell them about the Ariana Grande concert: when you're someplace that's really big, and if you think something's happening, treat it like you do in school. Stop, drop, and roll. Because that's something that they're getting about, I lived in Kansas. Tornado drill, smoke, whatever.
About that. Yeah.
But, you want to get away from the action. You want to stop what you're doing, figure out how to get away, and if you can't, duck low. Because if something's flying, you don't want to get hit by it. Those are things that they can understand, and it's not too much detail, because the more detail you get, I mean, you've got teenagers now. When they were little, what do they do? They pepper you. It's like a time with one of you.
Interrogation? Is that what you
know? It's so much sweeter. But right? But a lot of questions, and you can't answer them all. You're going to freak them out.
Well, the first I ask, when my kids come to me with questions, or they may say, I heard this, I immediately come back to them and say, what's your source?
Ooh, I like that.
Yep.
Who told you that?
Exactly.
Because I want them to always question where their information is coming from. Is it a credible source? Because there's so much information. My kids don't watch the news that much.
Yeah.
They may hear as they pass through.
Yes,
but they're
online.
They're on the internet. They see. They may see a headline, but they didn't read the whole story. And I'm like, get the source.
You know what I
where it's
love about
coming
what
from.
you just said? Your kids come to you as teenagers.
Yeah.
I think that when you talk about the big things in the world with your children starting at a young age, they will see you as the source. And that's where you want to keep them as long as you can. No fake news. We want the real thing here. We want the real thing right here.
Exactly.
Come to mom and dad and ask us. And, simply you're going to get a note home at some point where they're doing terrorism drills on the East Coast.
Yeah.
We have this.
How do you explain this? Because let's talk about, we were growing up, Mark just talked about he had tornado drills.
Yeah.
We had hurricane drills in Virginia and fire drills.
We had earthquake ones here.
Earthquake drills here.
yeah.
But they're implementing in schools terror drills.
Yes, they are.
Those two words, terror drills, for kids that are 5 years old is
They're
terrifying.
introducing-
Here's one thing I would say. There is no difference for a 5-year-old between a tornado, a hurricane, an earthquake, and a terrorist.
Yeah.
They don't have enough vocabulary or textured understanding to know the difference. The thing you want to drill home is what they do when there's a problem. Stop, drop, and roll is great. The terror drills are also teaching them to know their exits and to pay attention with their eyes, especially, and their ears to the teacher. No talking the minute something happens,
Right.
because you're looking for instruction. It shouldn't matter the danger, because it really doesn't to them. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know about the Islamic State savages. Like, they don't know about ISIS.
Yeah.
And you don't need to freak them out telling them that. Just have a plan. Teach them that plan.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because all three of our kids are about to start going to preschool. I'm so terrified. And I know that you girls must feel the same.
When you're saying 4 or 5, like my son's going to turn 4 in a week,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I can't even fathom that he'd be aware of any of that stuff. Like that, it just like blows my mind to start talking about that now. That's so like scary.
Too, Laura,
Yeah.
as
So
well.
I look for opportunities. We're taking our girls to Europe for the first time later this month. And we're going to Amsterdam, going to visit Anne Frank's house. That's something Bella's studying World War II, so that's great. The next category of cities, though, are in high critical points for terrorism, Paris and London. So I have to begin the conversation. Well, first of all, Bella knows because of Manchester now, but Europe is closer to the bad guys than we are right now. But they can be anywhere. But technically they are. And so I have that conversation with both the girls and we say, look, why don't you come up with some things that we can do in each city that have nothing to do with a monument? Because here's what I learned from 9/11. They will shut it down if they have to. I had friends who came to the United States, could never get into the crown of the Statue of Liberty. We couldn't for years. So, but I don't want to say, oh, this may be closest, but get it ready and have them take ownership of that trip.
Yeah.
Have some alternatives that are off the beaten path, if you will. Some teachable moments when things happen, if they do, but have a plan.
I love
Wonderful.
that.
Well, our plan is this, to have you back more often.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God. Thank you, because my DVR has smoke coming out.
You don't have a choice. There's no more space. You have to come here. Nothing left on your DVR.
I have a gift. My mom was an incredible cook, and I took her recipes and had them made on wood. And I'd like to hang them in your kitchen.
And you need to come back and make this for us.
Oh, that would be fun.
That is amazing.
Thank
You guys are always so giving. I wanted to.
We are going to come right back. I'm up next with some great gift ideas for good old Dad.